Welcome back to Security Weekly's virtual hacker summer camp. Some of you might be wondering, how are you going to plan your security strategy without a live in-person Black Hat vendor expo? Here to talk about that is Ian McShane. He's the VP of Product Marketing at CrowdStrike. Ian, welcome.
Hey, Paul. So good to be back again. How are you?
Yeah, it's nice to have you back. Wearing a slightly different hat and a great shirt. So,
thank you.
So, Ian, what are we going to do if we can't physically walk around a really large floor? I mean, the last time we got to do that was RSA, right? And then everything closed down, and now everything's been virtual. How does walking the floor, either in person or virtually, help or not help you plan your security strategy?
Well, I'd say the big thing with, like RSA and Black Hat is just the distraction that you come away with it from. Even as a vendor, when I was an analyst, you go in with these perceptions of, hey, this is what I want to learn about, but you just get screamed at through the hall. You hear buzzwords, you play buzzword bingo with your friends, and it's just confusing. So actually, do you know what? I think this is actually really good timing. So sitting down, spending time at the remote hacker summer camp, really, security leaders, business owners, whoever should be stopping and pausing and trying to figure out, we've made loads of changes this year just to support the business to get where we are. Which of those were band-aids, which are temporary, and where do we need to take them in the future? How do we build a strategy to carry on transacting as a business when we don't know what the next 6 months are going to hold, right?
What are some of the band-aids, Ian?
Well, I mean, there's just been this huge overnight business digital transformation, right? I think we've seen organizations accelerate kind of 3-year plans into 3 days. Certainly a bunch of friends I know that not necessarily in the information security industry, for years their employers were saying there's no chance you can work from home, no chance, we can't do it, not even on Fridays, not even on bank holidays. And then all of a sudden overnight, they made it work. And I'm sure there are a lot of, should we say, ropey practices put in place. I think there are probably a lot of people scrambling around VPNs. And we've seen, goodness knows how many vulnerabilities in the last couple of months just targeting VPN systems and concentrators alone.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, the internet reports are not conclusive that, we introduced a whole ton more. Like, everyone didn't go, oh, everyone's working from home, so, we're just going to open up SMB and RDP to the internet. And call it a day. Thankfully, right? Because some of us predicted that, but the data shows that we have a webcast coming up on that. But the data does not show like that everyone on the planet all of a sudden like opened things wide open, which is good. But we've learned, right?
I think a lot of vendors did a really good job of supporting their customers. Like I know there are a bunch of them, CrowdStrike included, right? We had our Falcon home use client, which we shipped out real quick for organizations that just couldn't buy hardware quick enough. We let our customers just redeploy stuff without, compressing their licensing or enforcing license controls, just so they could keep going in the most secure way. But our Overwatch team, right? That's our threat hunters here at CrowdStrike. They actually point out that they've seen more sophisticated threats in the first half of 2020 than they did in the entirety of 2019. So although I don't think like you said, I don't think it's the Wild West, I think there's been a lot more targeted activity by adversaries really, trying to take advantage of the fact that folks are working from home and maybe not in the most controlled environments that organizations might like.
Right. Yeah, but you still have to control the endpoint, right? I mean, regardless of where it is. I mean, people traveled before and had laptops, so we still had to cover the endpoint. And so maybe we had some more laptops or home computers, but, having even just some level of protection on that computer is a huge, I talk about, my son's computer, they all share it, right? I built a gaming PC, and even just restricting web browsing, right? With the home software that I use to, manage times and things like that. I'm able to actually thwart a lot of attacks. It's like, well, I haven't heard of this website before, so you know what? You can't go to it, right? That doesn't work in the enterprise setting, right? It really, it's too much of a nuisance to do that. I mean, we can talk about whitelisting, blacklisting, right? I mean, essentially, really what I'm coming down to, and what I would be looking for in the Black Hat Expo, actually, now that I think about it a little more, based on my recent experiences, are things that don't look like a proxy service or a filtering kind of thing, right? I want to remove the risk from the user's desktop as much as possible, right? Not just because it's a losing battle. Regex and
you can't try and funnel it.
Yeah, and filtering all that stuff. It's a losing battle.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the kind of the beauty of, I guess, a cloud native, to use a term, that's started to pick up a bit. Cloud native vendors, right, where we're already delivering this stuff for remote users. We don't care if you're in an office. We didn't care a year ago if you were in an office or if you were traveling. Right. The fact is that it works when you're connected to the internet, and it makes sure that the enterprise has the visibility and the control regardless of where you are. And to your point, I think, what I would be looking at as an enterprise is some way really how can I stop things? How can I put a pause on everything and let my team breathe, right? My team's probably trying to figure out what devices are where, why hasn't this device connected up for a while? How are we going to plug everyone into SAP when we can't even get, force everyone onto VPNs, because guess what? Our bandwidth sucks and we can't really force everyone through it 24/7. I'd be looking for something that lets me, like you say, offload some of that activity. Maybe not all of the risk, but maybe some of the day-to-day IT administration, some of the security over to maybe a managed service, maybe a vendor that says, hey, my team aren't going to deal with this right now. We're going to spend time figuring out the future and what we need to do to make this infrastructure last longer than a few more weeks, right? And how can I take away the kind of boring day-to-day stuff that, really we need someone else to take care of?
How do you balance, what you can control in a SaaS offering or cloud offering versus what you may or may not be able to control on the endpoint, right? So if we're virtually walking the floor, where do you gravitate towards, right? Because it's, I hate to say, but it's certainly not the traditional firewall vendors, because those don't really help me really much anymore.
Exactly, right? The endpoint's the only thing you can control, right? It's where your user is, it's where the credentials are. Maybe it's where some of your data is, but it's certainly where the data's accessed. But you need to be able to have that control at the endpoint, right? I think the days of being able to guarantee that your endpoints are going to traverse a specific network are numbered, if they're even, still in existence now.
And it's interesting doing these interviews, Ian, when you say that, our users that travel and have endpoints have always been in this risky situation, right? I spoke with researchers from SensePost that were looking at the time windows when you're doing captive portals in a hotel room and the opportunity for attacks. All of this has always been there, right? Now it's, I guess, just a larger scale.
That's the scale thing, right? If everyone's on an always-on VPN, if you think, I don't have any numbers, so I would be completely guessing, but the average enterprise isn't going to be 100% remote, right? Maybe it's let's say 50%. Now, all of a sudden, every single endpoint device is tunneling through that VPN. What kind of scalability issues are you uncovering there? Can you even do that? Are you having to enforce shifts to cope with data demands? I don't know.
What are some of the you've been at CrowdStrike for a little while now, what are some of the newer features in offerings specifically that help people, in the situation where we're going to have more people working remotely? Eventually people are going to start traveling again, as well, and it's still going to be in a similar risk level, right? I kind of put the home network in a similar hostile context as you would a conference or a hotel, or when you're traveling to other businesses for whatever your job role might be, right?
Yeah, that's the beauty of what CrowdStrike have developed and delivered over the last 7 years. It's like that cloud first platform where you can get your day-to-day job done no matter where the endpoints are, right? You can do the IT security, you can do that on Linux, you can do it on Mac, you can do it on Windows. You've got complete control wherever that device is, and you've got the kind of traditional protection suite. You've got that prevent, you've got the detection, you've got response. We've got I mentioned our Overwatch team, right? Our actual human threat hunters that will actually go and hunt for threats for you. And then if you really want to offload a lot more of that capability while your team's trying to recover and figure things out, we've got a fully managed service. We've got Falcon Complete, which is totally end-to-end, including, soup to nuts, detection, response, investigation, remediation, and then we'll tell you the best ways to strengthen your security posture to stop these kinds of things happening again.
Right. How has some of the analysis maybe changed when, I'm pulling, obviously the endpoint agents such as CrowdStrike aren't just looking to detect and prevent as a part of it, right? But there's also telemetry and data collection that's happening. When that data comes back and now people are working at home, how do you see some of the analysis changing, right? Because I'm not they're not in a controlled environment anymore. I'm probably looking for different, maybe slightly different things on a much larger scale.
Yeah, I mean, as you said earlier, nothing's really changed. There's always been folks that travel. I think what we've definitely seen is the kind of adjacent use cases that people can do with all of that data being centralized. You can use the CrowdStrike platform to do vulnerability and risk management. You can use it to enforce updating. Anything you can do through PowerShell, you can do through in a controlled environment through CrowdStrike's real-time response. So really, we've started to see the kind of IT operations side of things really being run through the same platform as security operations.
That's really cool. So what else we're attending the virtual seminar, right? What do we miss out on other than like the swag and stuff like that and free coffee? I kind of miss that.
Well, I mean, I miss the free coffee. I don't miss the conference food for sure. But other than sunshine and cocktails, I think we're going to miss the networking opportunities. I think that was always the big one for me. Is catching up with people that are in the same situation as you, talking. As you're queuing to try and get out of the conference rooms, right? Actually, can you even believe like a year ago you would have been like armpit to face with 30 or 40 people trying to squeeze through double doors, right?
Right.
But having conversations about the session you just been in and really just learning from other folks. That's the thing I miss.
Well, and that's a great point, Ian. When because I've spent a lot of time walking the floors, right? For a lot of reasons. I want to see what vendors are out there. I want to see what they're offering. I want to see if maybe they're a right fit to work with us on the show, if they need help getting exposure. So I've got a lot of kind of like mini missions walking the floor. But one thing that you hit on was sometimes I'm standing there at the vendor booth, mostly for free coffee, because that's where I gravitate towards, right? And there's other folks that work for enterprises and they're asking questions and describing their challenges. And sometimes just overhearing that and being part of that conversation is something that I will miss. Yeah,
totally. And I've stolen so many smart answers from conference attendees, from enterprises that tell people how they're doing things. And I'm like, holy cow, I never really thought of doing it like that. Or I didn't think of things like that. I think it's that exposure to other mindsets and other ways of thinking is invaluable. I think that's definitely something I miss.
Right. For sure. Well, Ian, thank you so much for appearing on Security Weekly. Folks that want to learn more about the CrowdStrike platform can visit securityweekly.com/CrowdStrike. Ian, thanks again.
Thanks so much. Great to see you. Stay safe.
Good seeing you too. With that, take a short break. And guess what? More interviews coming up next.